we kind of, our imagined reader is somebody who opens their computer or more often their phone, and the app they open isn't our app, though lots of people do open our app, but the one they open most of all is Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and others, and then the challenge is how do you get in there? I mean, a lot of what they said on the last panel is true for this too, which is to say people don't share things when they feel like there's no trick to getting people to share. And SEO in particular was a trick.
Yeah.
You could optimize right and get the right keywords, and you get more search traffic. And so I think some people kind of figured, okay, search is a trick too. How do you optimize? I mean, social is a trick too. How do you optimize for that? One thing we don't do much of is the day story.
Yeah.
I think because you figure if it's 2 p.m. and you want to know like what, again, like today, well, it's too late now, but or this morning, if I wanted to know what the absolute latest was on this referendum in Crimea and the aftermath, I went to Twitter.
Right.
And a story that at the end of the day kind of and I guess what we find is the stories people are least interested in are the ones that kind of tell you what happened yesterday, where if you were really interested, you were on Twitter and on other platforms finding out at the time. Mm-hmm. And if you weren't that interested, we need to find a much more compelling way of telling it to you that has some that's emotional. It's, that's maybe it's a photo essay, maybe it's a feature, but it's something that has more emotional grip. And I think there are a lot of people who kind of grew up in and are steeped in this in web culture of images and jokes and kind of the inside jokes of a whole generation on the internet that maybe itself was created in places like 4chan and on message boards, 10 years in Reddit, and for whom that's like really the native language, and some of what they do is reporting and writing, and some of what they do is kind of telling stories and telling jokes with images,
right.
and in forms that are native to the web and really totally different from traditional news forms. And I think one of the most interesting things to do is to try to figure out how to tell more traditional stories using these new forms, particularly big breaking news stories where so much of the fabric of a story, whether it's if it's a lost plane, so much of that is images, maps, statements, many of them made on Facebook and Twitter, and the extent to which you can weave a story together of, where the kind of media that you're pulling in kind of leads the story and you're explaining it, as opposed to describing things that you really can just show your reader. The way the internet is organized is often around identity, around being a fan of something, or an identity. Somebody did a post that was like, things you only know if you grew up Persian in the United States. He's Persian. And it was like this deck of the story was in fact in Farsi. Like I didn't understand a word of it, and all of the jokes were in jokes, but like every Persian American, saw that and like that's me and shared it. And so that you can get these huge, what are numerically huge audiences out of what feel like narrow subjects, but actually have really broad appeal.